I wanted to make one last video on this Tuesday afternoon, a couple of hours before Obama will be sworn into office. And that's a very historic moment. An African-American president being elected, something was never seen before, and a lot of people have hope that he will be the one to bring about the change we want to see in this world. So I wanted to speak briefly about the idea which really lies at the foundation of personal development, and that is change. And I was thinking about this earlier a lot, that as we are so caught up, and we all have a different idea of what we need to change. We all point fingers to a different problem. We all perceive to be the problem somewhere else. And be it the people in the Middle East, the Al-Qaeda, the terrorists, the Jews, the Palestinians, the left, the right, the Democrats, the Republicans, and we all perceive to be the problem somewhere else, and we all point fingers, and I believe we all have done this throughout human history, which is the reason for why there's so much war, because we're fighting against each other, believing that the enemy is outside. And I just wanted to remind you of that we have located the enemy, and the enemy is not outside, the enemy is within, and that has to do with that we are caught up in the mindset of separation, of duality, us versus them. Ultimately, we're all one. And I really think it's time for us to come together and go beyond our superficial differences. Because ultimately, if you were born somewhere in the Middle East, you would believe and think just the way the people do over there. And also kill in the name of Allah, because this is what you have learned. You're caught up in that paradigm, handed down to you from traditions and previous generations. And if you were in China, born in China, you would be just like somebody over there. But ultimately, when we talk about spirituality, spirit is eternal, and spirit goes beyond those boundaries. Ultimately, we are just like these beautiful ducks, these beautiful birds in the river. We're all part of the human species. And I really hope we can come together in this awareness, and I really hope that I can inspire you a little bit in this awareness, to remind you of this awareness. And ultimately, I'm also making these recordings to remind myself of that. That change is not something about changing other people, which I'm still a little bit having a difficult time with, dealing with people who are different from the way I want them to. I was very much in that idea during my marriage, trying to change my wife, the reason for why I was fighting with her all the time. But eventually it dawned on me that I was not supposed to change her, I cannot change her, and that I need to change myself. And so I'm very well aware of that, I've realized that, gained that awareness. But the actualization is a little bit more difficult, and so I'm working on that, I'm talking about that, I'm practicing that. Ultimately, I always have the opportunity to do that. You always have the opportunity to do that. To really become the change you want to see. You want to see in this world. In changing ourselves, it is not about changing your personality again, which I cannot do. But when we talk about change comes from within, it's about changing in terms of becoming more tolerant, more kind, more loving, more accepting of those things you cannot change. Realizing that ultimately we're all one, that we're all more alike than we are different. And so this is an awareness we can gain, and this is something we can practice. And once we learn to practice that, then we can bring more, again, as we are being more understanding, we bring more understanding to the world. We bring more love to the world as we learn to be more loving and more tolerant. And through this we can come together. And again, those people in your life who are difficult for you to deal with, those people you don't like, by learning to be more accepting of them, you will be able to reach them in a new awareness with more kindness and more love and more understanding. By this we can come together. Again, not by blaming others, trying to change them and pointing fingers and saying they are wrong. And so we're arguing with them and we're getting then defensive, holding on to our views and our right to believe and think the way we do. I think it's time for a new belief system, a new paradigm, a new way of being, an enlightened way of being. And that's going beyond the religious structure and beyond belief that, yeah, we just submit ourselves to this power outside of us, be it our government or be it God. It's the power within, and that empowerment can help us to come together and move beyond all obstacles and all differences. I really hope to be able to inspire in that awareness and make my small contribution, and I also would like to learn and practice, and that is my intention for the future, to really become more effective. Not only to share this awareness with others, but to also learn this, to realize this, and to practice this awareness for myself, to actualize myself based upon that awareness. Yeah, in order to become the change I want to see in my life, and also I want to see in this world. Thanks for joining, and I would love to hear your comments. Thank you. And again, goodbye Germany, goodbye Nackenheim. It was wonderful to be here for one entire month. I'm really looking forward to be going back, and again, thank you for being here with me.